Welcome to another Good Dads podcast. I am Jay Foch alongside Scott Lewis. Thank you, sir. Real quick, your position and what you're doing here at Good Dads.
That's right. I'm the project manager, so I'm in charge of both the Forge and Plus Us programs here at Good Dads. Super excited. I just got done with my training for Good Dads 2.0, and then I'm already teaching some classes. I'm just loving it.
You know, before we introduce our guests, whenever I hear project manager, I feel like there should be blueprints in your office, and you're really like an architect or something, like some kind of, or the guys, do the project managers, they're the ones who look through those binoculars and look at land. Or those are surveyors.
Kind of.
Surveyors.
Yeah. Think of it as like a general contractor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a good way to look.
When you say project manager, it's not necessarily about like buildings. It's more about like
programs.
What are we going to do?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How are we going to accomplish this? How are we going to make sure Good Dads gets in every single city in Missouri?
I love it. I love it. Thank you, Scott, for being here. And we'd like to introduce our guests, Holly Welch. And before we even, because we have a lot of questions about where you're from and what you do, but we always love to introduce our guests to talk about their parent experience, whether that be a dad or a mom. So Holly, welcome.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here. And yes, I have two sons. They are young men. They are grown by now, but I stayed home with them. I actually took off 18 years from my career to raise them, to be at home. And then when they were juniors, seniors in high school, I went back to work part-time for Missouri State Parks. I was working at Bennett Springs State Park. And then once they got into college, I went to work full-time.
Okay. And you survived that.
I did barely. The gray hair, you see the gray hair?
That was the result I was getting ready to ask. Okay, so, ooh, man, yeah, I bet that was a lot. I would have hated to give my mom two of me. You know, I mean, I feel bad for her. Like, I send her chocolates and flowers from time to time, just as sympathy gifts.
Yeah. I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah, my mom had to deal with three of me and four girls. So
wow.
We did, we frost hair for free, is what we say.
Oh, okay. So that's what your sons did.
Exactly. Yes, they did.
As a matter of fact. Yeah.
Wow, they're great kids.
So tell us a little bit about what you do now.
Well, I am the Historic Site Administrator for the Nathan and Olive Boone Homestead State Historic Site. It's one of 93 state parks and state historic sites that are in Missouri, and it's located in Ash Grove. So it's a 400-acre site, and I
didn't realize it was that big.
Yes, it is 400 acres. Myself, my assistant, and then one part-time person, we take care of the whole thing. So we do everything. We do all the maintenance work. We have to do the daily cleaning. We give tours. We put on educational programs. We do outreach like I'm doing today to come on programs. You name it, it pretty much falls on me and my assistant to do.
That is a busy crew then.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking 400 acres with 2.5 people, essentially.
Wow. So how did this get started? Like I know you said that there's multiple historic sites, obviously, in Missouri, but how did this one in particular get started? And like what is the process on that? Because I've obviously I don't know Nathan and Olive Boone, but I know we're getting ready to get educated. So Holly Welch, please.
Well, the way the process went is Nathan Boone is the youngest son of Daniel Boone.
No way.
Yes. So more people know Daniel.
I do know the name Daniel Boone.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So he was the youngest son, and he moved to the Ash Grove area when he was 51 years old. And he was a military hero. He did all kinds of things, so we can go more into that. But the citizens of Ash Grove wanted to recognize his service to the country and everything that he gave to the state of Missouri. And so beginning in the early 1900s, they kept petitioning the state to acquire the land. They wanted it to become a state park or a state historic site. And things just never worked out timing-wise, either with funding or with the people that owned it wanting to sell. And then finally in 1991, everything came together. So there was this push for decades to get it to become in the state's custody. So in 1991, the state ended up purchasing the land from a family, the Dixon family, who were running cattle on the property. We let them run cattle for a few more years, and then in the early 2000s, we opened it up to the public.
Wow. So that's pretty recent. I mean, as far as like historical sites go, that's like a pretty recent transaction, right? Like,
It
is that the newest one in Missouri then?
It's not the newest one. I don't know which one is right offhand, but it's not the newest. But yeah, some of our state parks and historic sites, they're over 100 years old.
Yeah.
Others are, just 10, 20 years old.
So is there any original, like let's just say buildings or certain things from the Boone family that's on the property? Obviously, since the 1900s, there's what you mentioned, cattle. There had to have been some modifications done to the land, right?
Right, there were. We've got two cemeteries. One is the Boone family cemetery where Nathan and his wife Olive are buried. There's the African American cemetery, which was in use from the 1830s through the 1880s, where both enslaved and freed African Americans were buried. And then we have the actual house that Nathan and Olive lived in. It was built in 1837, and it was in use through the 1950s. And then when this last family took over the property and ran cattle, they turned it into a hay barn. So they weren't actually living there, but they were storing hay in it. So when we got the property, we turned it back into what it would have looked like when the Boones were there.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So kind of like staged the inside, like what I don't want to say dishes, you know what I mean? Because you don't really talk about dishes in the 1800s, but just what that would look like, the setting, the table, like I would imagine the stove area.
Yeah, we had to pretty much take it because hay had been in there and they had put sheet metal siding on the outside. So we had to take that siding off. We had to figure out what the rooms were. There's only two main rooms in the house. It was a dog trot style house, which was 2 rooms with a center area, kind of like just an open corridor or breezeway. And that had been enclosed at some point. So we had to figure out how the rooms were used. And luckily, when Nathan died, he had a will that left everything to his wife, Olive. And without that will, she wouldn't have really gotten anything because she was a female at the time and women didn't get anything. But it was willed to her. She renounced that will. She's like, I don't want it. But what I'm going to do is have an auction. So she had an auction and sold everything. So none of the items we have other than the house are original, but we have that list of everything that was sold. So we know that there were dishes that were sold. We know that there was like a bushel of dried apples or beds or this or that. And so we can take that list and furnish the house like it would have looked.
Okay. So I would imagine not all of the 400 acres, but some of them, do you put certain things on there that would have been there, maybe from stories or talking to other people? Or?
We pretty much leave the landscape the way it is because we also try to preserve the historic landscape. So we look at old maps to see what the land would have been like. And you can see that it's kind of where the prairie meets the woodlands. It'll say pockets of woods, and then it'll have like a prairie drawn on it. So we use that as a guide. And then we keep open area and woods, pockets of woods. It is an ash grove, so there were lots of ash trees there. It's 6 miles away from Walnut Grove. We have a lot of walnut trees. You can see how they were giving names.
Yeah.
Sure.
So we leave it open. We use prescribed fire to keep some of the land open. We also use haying. We allow a hay contractor to come in once a year to remove some hay, again, to keep the woodies down and just keep it more of a grassland type setting.
Yeah.
So
I think that's so cool. What do you say to people that's like, why is this important? Or like, obviously we're good dads and we talk about kids and parents, like why is this important? I mean, I'm really into it. I know that, but like how do you like talk to the public who's like, well, what do I need to visit these 400 acres for? Like that was so long ago. Like what do I need? What do I do there? So why is that so important to, one, take your kids there, and then 2, just for people in general around visiting different parks in Missouri?
Well, I think it's important to know our history. Nothing exists in a vacuum, so everything that happens today is tied to something that happened in the past. And by preserving our historic sites and letting people see what life was like, maybe how life has changed, how life is the same, it's just, you get so much more out of actually going to a place than just maybe reading about it on paper or even watching a movie. You can see it, but when you're there, when you're experiencing it, when you're feeling what it was like, it makes all the difference in the world. And at our historic site, you pull in, you can park, we have an office, and we have a picnic shelter there so people can come out there and picnic as well. But once you cross over to the gravel path from the concrete, everything is how we think it would have been back in the 1800s. So you can't see houses. We put up tree screens so that you don't get a lot of that modern intrusion. Obviously, we can't control cell towers or airplanes or things like that. But as much as we can, we make it so you're walking back in time to get that whole experience of what it would have been like.
I know for me personally, I grew up around the Diamond area, and George Washington Carver National Monument or State Park. I don't know the exact name of it anymore, but that was such an impact on me growing up. And even, I mean, just visiting there in the summer because I had aunts and uncles out there, it gave me an appreciation for the past I just 100% would not have had. And such inspiring stories back then, you know, that people that came from such struggles, you know, and how much they were able to accomplish in their lives. It's just an inspiration, you know, and even as a young kid, I knew how impactful it was. And so I really cherished my time when I was going to those state parks. So that is one piece that I'm just going to advocate for. It's like, it may seem silly, like your kids may not want to go there, because I probably told my parents I don't want to go to some state park, you know, stay inside where it's nice and cool, especially in the summer, right?
Yeah.
But it's so great. It's so great. I mean, that's an experience I'll always remember, and some of the lessons I learned. And
I was thinking of a different kind of historical site. Like I mean, I remember as a kid driving around St. Louis with my dad, and he'd be like, you know, see that Hobnob liquor store? That used to be a drive-up burger joint, and they would come out on roller skates and give you burgers and shakes.
My dad does the exact same thing.
I said to this day, I was like, I'm never going to be like that. I'm never going to. And then here I am talking to my kids. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, we used to have to use telephones, and you have to remember the numbers. And they're like, well, wait a minute, you have to dial the number? I'm like, yes. And you'd have to call time and temperature to get the exact time when your electricity would go out. You don't have a phone. You had to call someone. Right. Yeah. And now I'm doing it. So, I mean, I guess there's all different forms of history, isn't there?
There is, but it's really amazing. And some days we bring out historic games, just, you know, Game of Graces where you're tossing hoops to one another and things like that. And kids get so involved in that that they don't want to stop playing it. Yeah. You know, and there's nothing fancy to it. Anybody could do it. It's literally just a hoop and some sticks, and you're tossing it back and forth. But there's something about being out there that, you know, they don't have their cell phones. They don't have other things. They're just out there playing, and they will literally play for hours.
This Good Dads podcast is brought to you in part by our generous supporters. This week, we'd like to thank the following: Prime Inc., Table Rock Shores, Dr. and Mrs. Benji and Lori Lambert, Flint Rock Home Builders, Han DeBuff Government Relations, Midmo Bank, Pinnacle Consulting, CPAs, Pinnacle Family Advisors, Central Assembly, D&E Plumbing. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Visit our website at gooddads.com to learn how to contribute to the Good Dads mission.
I think that's something that we mention on almost all of our podcasts now.
Yeah, because screen time. I mean, it always comes up with kids, you know, with screen time and everything, and not that you're trying to sound old and be like, get off your screens, but it's just the balance of it. Because I mean, it's just like anything else. Mm-hmm. Too much of anything, you know, can become an addiction, and it really does mess with your brain. So some of this, like what you're saying to the, you know, why is this important, is just to kind of take it in on a different level.
It is.
This is very important, like other than watching a documentary or reading about it.
Yeah, and it's just something different. I'm sure if the kids had these hoops every single day, they wouldn't want to play it, but it's just something different. So
or they become a national champion.
There you go.
Maybe
that too.
Maybe.
So
yeah, they're coming back all the time. So what makes something historical? Like, I mean, this seems like it's, you know, okay, yeah, well, it's Daniel Boone's grandson, and I mean, this seems like a no-brainer. But like, what is the process of that look like? Can Hobnob Liquor in St. Louis be historical?
Possibly
from the 60s. Or how does, I mean, I know you're maybe not on the committee of making something historical, but what is that? How does that look like?
Usually when you have a historical site, it has to have architectural significance or cultural significance, or just be part of history. So like a battlefield. So there's not necessarily a time frame. It's not like I'm going to put exactly 50 years on it, boom, it becomes historical. But does it have some meaning? Does it have some value? Is there, you know, like a person that really contributed something to history or to the way we are today? Or, you know, you got architectural buildings that Frank Lloyd Wright, some of his buildings that he's designed, there's just something unique or special about them. So you got to look at several different factors. You can't just take any random place and say, oh, it's going to be a historic site. There has to be some reason, but there's not just one criteria. It could be a multitude of things.
And Scott was just asking me before the podcast if you can hunt on the land.
No,
Because he's a big hunter. Were you asking?
Lots of caribou out
crossbow?
there.
Were you wanting a crossbow or was it slingshot?
Was a little pellet gun, a little pump up air rifle.
No, so about as much as you, like all joking aside, you can picnic there, but it's not like you can camp there. You can walk around and that's about it. Okay.
Yeah, we have picnic tables. We've got 4 miles of trails, so you can go hiking there. We have a small pond where you can fish. It's a little overgrown at the moment, but we do allow fishing out there. In general, Missouri state parks do not allow hunting. There are some special hunts if deer get to the population gets too big, but no, there's not any hunting.
Sorry, Scott.
But all of our state parks and historic sites are free to get into, thanks to the Missouri Soils and Water Parks and Soil Sales Tax. Sorry, it is free for everybody to just go and use one of our facilities.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I know you kind of hit upon it a little bit, just about how important it is and how we do grow. But what do you think we learn from visiting the past? Like, what can we apply now? And I love how you said like the simplicity of the game. I think that would be a good word to use on just like kind of, as we visit these. But what could we apply like as parents and maybe dads going to visit the Nathan and Olive Boone homestead?
I think there's so many things. Just looking at their way of life, you can compare their way of life to our way of life, seeing similarities and differences. Nathan was involved in so many things. I know we haven't really gotten into him a whole lot, but he was a hunter and trapper. He was a surveyor. He helped survey so many different lands in Missouri. He served in the military. That was the reason they came to the Ash Grove area, was because he enlisted in the Dragoons and got stationed in Fort Gibson, Oklahoma. That was a 3-week ride to where he had been living up in Defiance, Missouri, which is by St. Louis. He wanted to be closer to his family. And so he decided to pick up and move his family across the state, just so when he was on leave, it wasn't taking him 6 weeks to travel home and back again. He could do it in just a couple days. So just, even though he wasn't home a lot, making those types of decisions where he is home a little bit more when he has the opportunity.
Sounds like a good dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to throw that in there.
Well,
He's one of the originators.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he did special things, like he would get paid in gold. And so when he would come home on leave, he would have hidden pockets in his garments just for protection. And he would take his hat and turn it upside down. He would start counting his gold with his family around, making a whole game out of, what he was making. So he found little ways to incorporate just daily living into, a fun activity.
Yeah.
So we can learn that. We can learn how to survive things. It was not easy living on the homestead, on the frontier. They had to grow everything, raise everything, make everything, and they were far away. It was over a half-day's ride to Springfield, which was the closest town to get anything. So just having to rely on each other to survive, learn how to do everything. So I think we can learn today, by going to these historic sites. We can see that, by persevering, by just working through things, we can do it. We can make it. Just have to rely on others, rely on family.
Yeah. Sounds hard.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. And as we take people on tours and they're walking the 1/4 mile to the house in the 95-degree heat, they realize it wasn't easy because the house is not air conditioned. And, it was hot. It was cold. It was windy. And you worked all the time. Yeah. But they still survived.
You didn't know any better.
No, you didn't.
Right. Yeah. It wasn't like there was even the rich people didn't have air conditioning then, did they?
No.
Maybe somebody to fan them. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
And Nathan was one of the richer people. His house, his cabin was considered the mansion of the area.
Really? Mm-hmm. Just the 2-area cabin?
Yeah.
How big was it? Like square footage, what are we looking at?
I am not good with square footage, so I can't tell you exactly, but the rooms are probably 16 by 20 a piece, something like that.
Tiny.
Mansion?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mansion. Sorry.
Yes.
Mansion.
Yeah.
Well, when they lived in the Defiance area, they did have a 4-story mansion. It's the Daniel Boone house. It is open to the public, but if you want to compare the two, what he had and what he moved his family from, it's a big difference.
And how do you think dads, we always bring it back to dads too, can encourage their kids to do not even the Nathan and Olive Boone homestead, but any kind of historical sites? Like what is something that, the kind of conversations that we can have with our kids to kind of get them ready for different sites? Or if we're going to go on, let's say we're out of town somewhere in Missouri and we want to check out a different historical site. What would you recommend? I
think modeling that behavior and in discussions, just talking to your kids about it. Saying, oh, I read about this, or I saw this on TV, or wherever you're getting your information from. Say, yeah, this was so cool. Look at this old house. And I wonder what they have that we don't, or how our lives are similar. Just finding those little things to maybe connect with, to spark an interest, and listen to what your kids are saying. If you're talking architecture with them and they're not interested, maybe switch to talking about, the bugs that are on the homestead, or, everybody's interested.
Or the hunting, or
exactly.
Or the games.
Right. Find that little bit that they might be interested in and go from there.
Yeah. We'd have to talk to Scott about the hunting.
Sure.
To get him interested, obviously.
I might.
Mr. Slingshot over here.
Yeah. And, like with state parks, we've got a new program that just came out. It's a passport program for free. And I brought a few that I'll leave with you guys.
Nice.
You can have a map of all 93 state parks and historic sites. And then as you go to visit them, you put a little sticker with the date on there. So it's a way to keep track of where you've been. And also, hey, I haven't been to this place. It's not that far away. So, that's another way that dads can say, let's go on an adventure. Yeah. Pick a place within, they could even put a little circle on there so that it's within driving distance.
It's really great to do with a family. So you could maybe do that over a whole year and see how many you could get to or something.
Oh yeah.
Good.
That'd be so fun. Yeah.
It'd be a nice little
once
game.
Josie gets a little bit older, I'm sure she'd appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what about your sons? Do you kind of get into the historic site with them? I mean, I'm sure they've been out to the Boone homestead.
Yeah, I roped them into volunteering out there when I was short of other people. But yes, they have been out. My one son, he's interested in state parks. When he was younger, he worked part-time in state parks as well. So he's familiar with the whole operation, and he's really interested in history. He actually got a degree in history. And my other son, he's taken a different path, but he still likes to come out, still volunteers, still is really interested in everything. And so they both appreciate it, and I appreciate them greatly.
So do they do some mowing?
No, they don't do mowing. I don't put them on the mowers. Usually if we're having a special event, they help set up the rooms and do things like that.
That's great. That's really awesome. Is there anything that we miss? I mean, we always like to encourage dads, kids, families in general to experience, sometimes we do these just to give different ideas on activities, because there's just so, as we talk about, hey, spend some time with your kids, how can you be a dad? Well, how do I be a good dad? I don't know how to be, and simplifying things, be present, listen, and come up with different activities that you can do. And you don't know what you like until you try new things. And this could be something that you never thought of, and you get into it and you do a whole map, and there becomes kind of a, we're going to try to visit 5 of these each summer kind of a thing.
Yeah. And I would say don't set your expectations so high that you're inflexible. If you want to go on a 5-mile hike, but maybe you only make it 100 feet because there are so many interesting things. There's rocks to look at, there's bugs, there's this, there's that. Take that time and just engage with what you have instead of trying to force something else. Because it's amazing what you can discover in just a small area. And whether it's, the nature side of it, whether it's the historical side, we have some people that come out that all they want to do is know how the log cabin was built.
Sure.
Fine, go with that.
Yeah.
You can go with so many different things.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today. And maybe the next time we talk that Hobnob Liquor in St. Louis will be a historical site.
It might be.
Never know. They're getting a lot of pub and they don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
I think this podcast is sponsored by.
I don't think we're sponsored by it.
We are not. No, we're not. Okay. That's it. Holly Welch from the Nathan and Olive Boone Homestead State Historic Site. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate
You're
it.
welcome. Thank you for having me.